Hello and welcome. I am Cyril Stover. Nigeria continues to evolve new strategies in growing its economy and improving national life. In a world that is increasingly driven by ICT, the country is deploying communications infrastructure to improve GDP and quality of national life generally. Now, virtually all aspects of governance and service delivery look to the benefits of ICT. Facilitating cost-effective access and promoting its utilization are part of the mandates of the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. Isa Ali Pantami holds a PhD from Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen, Scotland. Before then, he'd studied computer science at Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, where he obtained both bachelor's and master's degrees. At various times, he was at Harvard University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge University, and several others. Now, his working life cut across Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, Islamic University, Medina, and the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, where he was Director General Chief Executive Officer. In August 2019, he was appointed Minister of Communications, and barely 2 months later, in October, President Buhari approved the redesignation of the ministry as the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. Today, the Minister, Dr. Isa Ali Pantami, is my guest. Minister, welcome to One on One.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sirius Stover.
Right. Now, the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. Now, Nigerians are used to just communications. And, okay, 2 months after you assumed office, the President approved the designation as Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. Many people would want to know what led to that. That's one aspect of it. So let's begin with it.
Thank you very much for asking a very important question. Firstly, if you look at global practice today, the focus is on digital economy rather than communications or obsolete ICT. And this is the position of our World Economic Forum, that the focus will be more on digital economy, is the position of International Telecommunications Union, which is an arm of the United Nations. The reason, if you look at it carefully, there are three key words there. We have communications, we have digital, and we have economy. So communications is just the channel, while digital is the content passing through the channel of our communications. And the central focus is the economy, to promote the economy of your country. So the three words are interwoven. You have communication as the channel, and the content passing through the channel is the digital content. And your target, your vision is to drive your economy. So this is why we have three words as the key words of describing the ministry. And this is the position of our World Economic Forum, that of International Telecommunications Union, and many more. And it is because of this that Mr. President has approved the redesignation of the ministry from Federal Ministry of Communications into Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. And prior to that, many countries have Ministry of Digital Economy. We have it under United Nations. We have it even in Scotland as a country, even in Africa here like Burkina Faso, and even the country like Togo, if you go to. So these are some examples where their country established a Ministry of Digital Economy in order to diversify their economy.
All right, but Minister, I suppose that brings us to the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy. With this redesignation, Nigerians are looking to how this ministry can play the key role that's needed in diversifying and developing the economy. What's the policy and strategy here?
Thank you very much. I think diversifying the economy is one of the key priorities of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Immediately after the first recession that our country entered into, and looking at how many nations are avoiding to rely so much on natural resources and focus more on knowledge-based resource. Mr. President is so passionate about diversifying the economy of the country, And this is Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy is one of the ministries that he focuses more on in an attempt to diversify the economy of our country, particularly to avoid our too much reliance on the oil and gas. It is because of this, after redesignating the ministry on the 17th of October 2019, he directed me to develop the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy for achieving a digital Nigeria. I assembled a team of experts from both private and public sector, academia, and many more, in which we came up with a draft of the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy. And we also assembled a team of experts during a conference of e-Nigeria in 2019, where the draft was presented to experts, and we got their recommendations, their constructive criticism, their observations, and even commendations. And from what we have gathered from that conference, we came up with the final version of National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy for a Digital Nigeria. If you go through the policy, you will clearly see that our initial target is to ensure that our country was digitalized within 10 years, from 2020 to 2030. That was the target. However, looking at this COVID-19 pandemic, how the world has been compelled to be more inclined to digitalization, we were able to fast-track the implementation to the extent that the targets we had earlier set for ourselves to achieve by 2025, we were able to achieve them by 2021 today. Why? Because this COVID-19 pandemic that came up unexpectedly compelled many nations to be more inclined to digitalization, and Nigeria has not been left out. Today you can see we have Federal Executive Council virtually, Council of State virtually, National Economic Council virtually, many important councils that have been established constitutionally are being conducted in Nigeria virtually. So going through the policy, you will discover that at the time we developed it, we were a bit too ambitious. But because of COVID-19 pandemic, you discover that we were not that. Why? Because we were only proactive, and we did so before the COVID-19 came up. In that policy, you will discover that we have so many targets we have set for ourselves, and the targets are to achieved by implementing 8 pillars, starting with number 1, developmental regulation, number 2, digital skills, number 3, solid infrastructure, number 4, service infrastructure, number 5, digital services, number 6, soft infrastructure, number 7, digital society and emerging technologies, number 8, indigenous content development and promotion. These 8 pillars, you will discover that they are to guide our country in diversifying our economy. And to simplify the implementation of the pillars, we also develop a roadmap. That roadmap mentions the actionable plans, certain actions that are to be executed in order to achieve each and every pillar of that document. And so far, the journey has been challenging, but highly, highly commendable and impressive as well.
All right, you did speak about the first time Nigeria went into recession, but of course, not too long ago, the country was in some form of recession again as a result of COVID-19. But surprisingly, Nigeria eased out of that recession faster than was expected. What was the role of the digital economy in this?
If you look at it significantly, digital economy or ICT sector pulled out Nigeria from recession. There is no question about this. Firstly, we speak on the recession itself. Nigeria went into recession, and this is a global issue because even the developed nations went into recession. A country like the United States of America went into recession with even -19, while Nigeria was only -6. This is to show to us that with all sense of humility, our economy then performed better than that of the US because their challenge was -19, our own was only -6, meaning their own was 3 times worse than our own. Many people predicted that Nigeria could exit recession by late 2021 or early 2022. That was the prediction. But the performance of the ICT sector alone, plus the digital services combined together, pull out the country from recession. Why did I say so? It is because of the report released by the National Bureau of Statistics describing the performance of our economy in 2020 from January to December and the last quarter of our 2020 as well. Going through January to December 2020, the most performing sector was ICT sector. It was the most performing. The growth rate of ICT sector throughout the year was 12.90%, followed by another sector that grew by only 3%, meaning that ICT sector grew more than 4 times the second most performing sector. Furthermore, in the fourth quarter of 2020, ICT sector grew by 14.70%, followed by another sector which grew by 3.41%. And in that quarter, you will discover that ICT sector grew more than 4 times the performance of the second most performing sector. Not only that, if you consider the remaining 6 sectors, ICT number 1, then consider from second position to 7th position, you will discover that the sectors there are agric, health, public admin, construction, real estate. If you come all the remaining 6, you will discover their growth rate was 14.21%,
right,
while ICT was 14.71%, meaning that ICT performed better than all the 6 remaining sectors combined together. Not only one, all of them combined together, ICT did better than all of them. So this is a clear indication that you'll discover that the minus that arises as a result of decline in oil and gas was complemented by ICT, even more than complement. It grew more than 2 times the minus of our oil and gas sector. So this is a clear indication that ICT sector perform the greatest role in pulling our country out of recession. The statistics are outside there for everyone to see.
Okay, so, well, the ministry has set itself a number of targets and goals to achieve, and one of them happens to be the question of the national ICT parks, and we like to look at that and see what are the stages and what have you set yourself, well, within the period that you run this, run the strategies, what are the targets that you have, key performance indicators?
Thank you very much, Mr. President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR. Part of the mandate he has given to us is to ensure that we build the capacity of our citizens in digital skills, and secondly, to ensure that we promote innovation in the country, and thirdly, to ensure the growth of digital economy as a sector. In order to achieve that, we develop certain policies that will guide the federal government, particularly its parastatals that have the mandate of ICT development, to execute the policy and ensure that we deliver the mandate that has been given to us by Mr. President. It is in that direction we develop certain policies that we could discuss in the next few minutes. These policies brought about some centers to be established here in Nigeria. Most of them are starting with Abuja, like the National ICT Park. Initially, National ICT Park was in the pipeline for over 10 years. But it is only now within 1 year we were able to get the approval of Mr. President, and at the same time make a presentation before the Federal Executive Council where it was approved, and now we have started the project immediately. Why? Because it is a center that we plan to establish where our young innovators, young citizens who have some crazy and disruptive ideas. When I say crazy ideas, I mean extremely good ideas that will come there to be mentored, to be taught, to be guided, and to give all the necessary support they need in order to at least make us proud. This is what we have started doing. Part of the National ICT Park, we plan also to establish a museum where our own journey in ICT sector are going to be kept there. From the time ICT emerged in Nigeria to where we are today. So this is part of what we have also planned to establish. So the National ICT Park will be a center where we develop the skills of our citizens. We bring together our young innovators. We mentor them. We incubate their ideas. And we also ensure we promote their innovation. And we encourage federal public institutions to deploy the innovations where necessary. It is an approach of what Mr. President has been agitating, that we produce what we eat and we eat what we produce. This is not only restricted to the physical meaning of producing what we eat, but rather it requires logical interpretation, that even in ICT, we need to give more emphasis on what our innovators produce, and we should give priority and preference to it. In addition to that, we also have other centers in place. We have established National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics here in Abuja. It is the first of its kind in Africa. I developed a policy on behalf of the federal government, and part of the implementation of that policy, the National Information Technology Development Agency was mandated to establish the center, and federal government has given all the support, and the center has been established. And today we have young innovators there with their ideas on artificial intelligence and robotics working in the center. It is free for all Nigerians that have any idea to come to that place and enjoy the facilities we have. In addition to National Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. These are only some examples of what we have been doing, and there are many in the pipeline.
No, while we're on the subject, let me just bring this to you. And it's speaking about skills. You did mention as one of those 8 areas, digital skills, and this is what the National ICT Park proposes to develop among young Nigerians. You were reported some time ago as having said that the world has moved on, and that the issue of certificates and chains of papers is almost forgotten now, that the world is now all about skills. Now, quite a number of people didn't quite get that, and the first thing they said, here's a minister who has a PhD, and he's talking about those papers not being useful anymore. Can you clarify that?
Firstly, my clarification is to say that I am not undermining certificate in any way. As you yourself briefly explained at the beginning of the program, the universities I attended, like ATBU from Nigeria here, Robert Gordon in the UK, United Kingdom, Harvard University in the US, MIT, IMD in the US, and also in the Switzerland, and also Cambridge University. I was also in Oxford University, where I was taught on the strategic leadership and many more. So these are the most prestigious universities globally. With all sense of humility, I have been blessed to attend the institutions, and I'm grateful to the Almighty. However, my statement was, certificate is supposed to be a validation of skills.
Right.
In a situation where someone obtains a certificate, and that certificate fails to validate any skill with him, then the aim of acquiring that certificate has been defeated. Today in Nigeria, I said we must change our perception and our mentality. We give more emphasis to certificate without looking for the skill to be validated by that certificate. Right. Many institutions today in Nigeria, during recruitment, they will say you must have a first class or second class upper. They don't mention anything with regards to your skill. If you present your certificate with first class or second class upper, automatically you will be considered. Someone will come with skills, overloaded with skills, but he has only second class, lower, or even third class. He will not even be considered. He will not even be given the privilege to attend an interview. We have so many people without any higher certificate doing better on their assignments, better than some of us with PhD today. Why? Because it is not about certificate, it is about skills. If that certificate fails to validate any skill with me, then the aim of acquiring has been defeated. And what is supposed to be done is not only to present your certificate. If I am recruited, I am supposed to be given an assignment to do. That assignment can only be executed by skills, not with my certificate.
Right.
It is because of this, priority and preference must be given to skills rather than certificates. Furthermore, if you go to the developing nations like China, they started the process of converting around 600 universities to skill centers. In Morocco, if you go there, you'll discover they established over 300 skill centers. Today, their citizens travel to Europe with dignity. They are respected. Why? Because they acquire the skills that the world needs today. If you go there with your second-class offer, you may not be considered. Why? Because they know what is important is the skill, not just the certificate. Furthermore, we know the leading companies today in the world. Companies like Deloitte, like Microsoft, like Amazon, and many more. If you apply for a job there, they will not ask you about your certificate. The only question and what you only need to indicate on your CV is your soft skills, then your hard skills. Your soft skills like critical thinking,
Right.
analytical thinking, collaborative skills, collaborative thinking, problem solving, creativity, presentation skills, writing skills, and many more. These are the soft skills they are after. Right. They will just give you a challenge. If you say you are expert in problem solving, you will be confronted with a challenge, with a problem, and they will ask you to sit down and critically think over this problem, come up with a solution to it. What they will ask you is not your certificate, right. It's just the skills. When it comes to hard skills, as a journalist, they will not ask you which university have you attended. They will just ask you, please, can you make the presentation for us to see? Let right. them understand your skills in presentation. They may ask you to write a report, to read it, not the skills. If you can do it well, they don't even value your certificate. Why? Because certificate is supposed to validate your skills. And right. if your certificate fails to validate the skill, then the aim has been defeated. And this is one of the challenges we are being confronted with. And that is why in all our institutions, if we want to get it right, we must give priority and preference to people with skills that can deliver, not people with certificate like my humble self. Okay. With certificate, they can be considered, but not just because of the certificate, but rather because of the skills, because of the certificates that have been overloaded with skills.
Right.
So this should be our priority and preference.
All
and
right.
it is only then we can get it right.
All right, Minister, because that takes us to the other aspect of it, the Digital Entrepreneurship Center, which you talked about, and the question of jobs creation. And this is one of the biggest issues the country has had to grapple with, the high rate of unemployment, and you have so many young, certificated people who do not have proper jobs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cyril Stover. Part of the plan of the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari is to develop our indigenous digital economy. Not only to develop digital economy, but indigenous digital economy. So there are two prerequisites to developing indigenous digital economy. Number one is digital innovation. And number two is digital entrepreneurship. These are the two. You cannot develop indigenous digital economy without promoting digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship. These are the two prerequisites. And it is because of this, in order to achieve them, I develop a policy on national digital innovation and entrepreneurship policy. Part of the implementation of that policy is what brought about establishing the national digital economy, national digital innovation and entrepreneurship. All the parastatals being supervised by the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy have a role to play. However, now the project is under the National Information Technology Development Agency, while under Universal Service Provision Fund, we also have a provision of National Center for Emerging Technologies. So there are so many projects in place. Our plan is not only to develop digital economy, but rather to develop indigenous digital economy. By doing that, you will create millions of jobs. Today, Mr. Cyril Stober, because of promoting digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, their GDP, gross domestic product, as a university, their annual GDP is more than that of India as a country, with a population of over 1.2 billion people. As a university, their GDP is more than that. That is why they consider MIT as an MIT nation. MIT nation, it is a university, but logically and strategically, it is a nation. Because the GDP of MIT, if MIT University is to be considered as a country, it should be the 10th largest economy globally. It will be somewhere in between India and USSR, Russia. Russia, you will discover with their GDP of 2.098 trillion USD, and India with 1.982 trillion USD. So it will be in between India and Russia, and it is a university. Why did they achieve this? It's because they promote digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship. They came up with an approach of what they call innovation-driven enterprises. Even their micro, small, and medium enterprises are being accommodated into IDE, innovation-driven entrepreneurship. So this is the approach today. It's not just about digital economy, but rather we must promote our indigenous digital economy, and that can only be attained by promoting and developing our digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship. And through this, you will be able to create many jobs for our citizens. And this is what we have been doing.
Okay. Well, this should take us to the question of the broadband plan, which you do have. And for long, this has been sitting on the table.
You got it wrong. Among all the policies we have developed, I think the National Broadband Plan is one of the most successful policies in terms of implementation.
Within which parameters?
Within this period of, let me give you an example. Based on available record, available data at our disposal, Nigeria attained 1% broadband penetration in 2000. That is 21 years ago. By 2019, when I was appointed as a minister in charge of communications, the broadband penetration was around 33%. So from 2000 to 2019, we achieved 33% broadband penetration. If you compute, you will discover that the average annual penetration is 1.7%. 1.7, because in 19 years we achieved 33. But from 2019 August to November 2020, a little more than 1 year, we achieved more than 10% broadband penetration instead of the annual 1.7%. There wasn't any time in the history of this country that more than 10% broadband penetration was achieved, except from 2019 August to 2020.
Yeah, with due respect, Minister, that may well be so, but what would be, I don't want to use the word ideal. Okay. What should it be? It's okay. It's 1.7, and then in 1 year you're doing 10%, but where should we be actually?
Our target, if you go through National Broadband Plan, firstly, Nigeria had the first plan, which expired in 2018. Since it expired early 2018, there wasn't any plan in the country throughout 2018. And from January up to August 2019, there wasn't any plan.
All right.
It was only when Mr. President assigned me to supervise the communication sector then, I immediately discovered there wasn't any plan.
All right.
And the first thing I did was to also assemble a team of experts to come up with a plan for 2020 to 2025. And that team of experts was chaired even by the private sector, because private sector is to drive the implementation. The CEO of Men1, Funke Opeke, a lady, was appointed to chair the committee, and they developed the plan. And the plan was unveiled and launched by Mr. President on the 19th March 2020. It was the last official assignment of Mr. President outside the State House before lockdown because of COVID-19 pandemic. Right. However, looking at time constraint, we were doing two things simultaneously, developing the policy and also implementing it. That implementation was through addressing the challenges to broadband penetration in Nigeria. We were addressing the challenges like the issue of a right of way, issue of critical infrastructure, vandalization of ICT infrastructure, and many more, addressing the issue of multiple taxation and many more. So at the time we were developing the plan, we were also addressing the obstacle and the barriers to broadband penetration in Nigeria. In that policy, we came up with 4 pillars. Number 1 is infrastructure. Number 2 is policy itself. Number 3 is demand drivers. Number 4 is funding and incentives. And under these 4 pillars, there are 55 initiatives that are to be implemented to ensure that this policy is implemented successfully. Okay. Under infrastructure, we have 23 initiatives. Under policy, we have 12 initiatives. Under demand drivers, we have 13 initiatives. And under funding and incentives, we have 5. So we have around 55 initiatives. And if these initiatives are implemented, then we can say we are successful. Okay. In summary, the target of that policy we developed is to ensure that we have broadband penetration of 25 MB per second in urban cities, and a minimum of 25% MB per second in urban cities, and a minimum of 10 MB per second in rural areas. And secondly, we want to ensure that by 2025, 90% of our population, a minimum of 90% of our population do have access to broadband penetration. Okay. Also, when it comes to landmass, which Nigeria is around 980,000 square kilometers, we want to ensure that a minimum of 70% of our landmass will have access to broadband penetration. By the time I was appointed, the average amount of 1 gigabyte of data was 1,200 naira. Our target by 2025 is to ensure that it is not more than $1 at the government exchange rate, that is around 380 to 390. As it is today, the average price of one data is less than 500 naira, from 1,200 in 1 year.
But it's still work in progress, Minister, because some will tell you that it is still on the high side.
But before you say it is in the high side, what is important for you to do is to determine the price of the production of 1 gigabyte of data. Because you cannot, if you want to reduce the price, you must reduce the cost of production. This is all about that. Firstly, today in Nigeria, we don't have power. Companies producing data in Nigeria, they manage 22,800 generators every day. For you to fuel 22,800 generators, to provide staff for all of them to maintain them, don't you think that this will affect the price, the cost of production? Secondly, we engage many ad hoc staff, sometimes security institutions, to protect the infrastructure because of so much vandalization. Thirdly, in so many states, we are having multiple taxation. And this is one of the issues we are addressing. Even 2 weeks ago, through National Economic Council, I made a presentation before our governors to address the issue of multiple taxation. One tax will be paid 4 times in some states. For example, while laying cables, based on the agreement of National Economic Council, Nigeria Governors Forum is 145 naira per linear meter. In some states, if you go along the highways, Ministry of Works and Housing is mandated to collect the tax. NIWA may come up and say, okay, this is highway, but it has gone over a river, and this is our constituency, you must pay right of way. A state governor will say, but it is through my state, you must pay it. That will be paid again. And a local government chairman will come and claim that it is through my local government. So it is the same thing, but it will be paid 4 times. So because of this, if you want to bring down the cost, you must address the cost of production. And this is what we have started doing. There wasn't any time that our governors are doing their best to at least comply with the right-of-way agreement like now, we still have issues to address. But the level of compliance today is more than 80%, while what I inherited was not even up to 5% compliance.
All right, Minister, we'll
so because of this, the issue is try to address the cost of production, and this is what we are doing. If an investor invests, he's targeting for profit. If you bring the price lower than the cost of production, the business will crash.
All right.
And we don't want it to crash.
All right. We'll return to that if we have time. But that brings us to one issue that has been hotly discussed everywhere, and that is the NIN registration.
That is good.
And quite a number of Nigerians were not too pleased with the policy coming up at the time it did, especially during a pandemic, when people were supposed to maintain social distance, and within a short period they were asked to converge and register their SIM cards.
Saying that the federal government came up with a policy during COVID-19 pandemic, it was not true. The policy was issued in 2011 without implementation, 2013 without implementation, 2017 without implementation. The last deadline given by the federal government was in January 2018. There wasn't implementation. As a minister, I was appointed to supervise the sector. Our main responsibility is to ensure that government laws and policies are complied with. I am not the kind of person that will be appointed to come and sit down and allow laws and policies to be ignored. If you give me an assignment, I will either deliver or I will clear the screen for someone to come and do it. The last time we issued this policy was in February, 4th of February 2019. Sorry, 1st of February, 4th of February 2020. Go through online and Google it. You will discover, including NT8 covered that federal government said that by 1st of December 2020, that policy must be implemented. Any line without linking to NIN number should be blocked. So look at it. It was even before COVID-19. Secondly, what we only did end of last year was only to restate it and re-emphasize about the deadline, not in any way to issue a policy. It was not a new policy. The last time we issued the revised version of the policy was in February 2020, and 10 months were given. Then there was nothing like COVID. Secondly, it's a simple question, let me ask you. This national identity number is a number that is required by law. It's a mandatory number for all citizens, according to National Identity Management Commission, 2007 Act. The law that establishes NIMC says that after approving the law, citizens were given only 60 days to ensure they obtain the number. So by implication, any citizen who fails to obtain it since 2007, after 60 days, he has already committed the crime. This is what the law says. And even if there is excuse, only 180 days were given to citizens, maximum of 180. So the law was approved in 2007. And we asked you to submit in 2020. Then you said, let me go and get it. Why you spend 13 years without obtaining a number that is mandatory by law? That the same NIMC Act says, under Section 27, any citizen who opens a bank account without national identity number is a crime, is an offense. Any citizen who obtains voter's card without national identity number is an offense. Any citizen who pays tax without national identity number is an offense. Any citizen who collects pension without national identity is an offense. Any citizen who enjoys federal government services without obtaining national identity number is an offense.
So virtually the entire population would have committed an offense.
So ignorance is not an excuse.
Including the millions of voters who voted during the elections.
Listen, this is what the law says. I'm only repeating the law for you.
Okay. All right. Okay, Minister. Well,
so if you go to Section 29, the law says, whoever commits what I have mentioned in Section 27, he can be fined or imprisoned or both of them.
All right.
So because of this, the simple question is, why did some citizens fail to obtain the number because of the law? They can only obtain it because of SIM, which is not mandatory by law. Why are we only complying with the law of our land only because of the SIM, which is not a requirement by law? There is no any law or policy of government which says that you must obtain SIM. It's just optional. If you like, you do it. If you don't like, you leave it. But national identity number is a requirement by law. Are you following?
Okay.
In addition to that, I was in the UK when they started issuing this name. When I read the law there, I came to Nigeria purposely because of national identity, and I enrolled. And I went back to the UK.
Okay.
What brought me to Nigeria only to come and enroll, and I went back for many years. Why? Because this is what the law says. I'm coming. And this is not only in Nigeria. Go to many developed nations. Can you go there and stay and work as a citizen or as a legal resident without number? Can you go to United States without social security number? It's impossible. Can you go to the UK without national insurance number? Can you go to India and work without Aadhaar number? Can you go to to Saudi Arabia and work without their Iqama number? It's impossible. So this is the foundational ID. Okay. It is the foundation of building economy, foundation of our security. It is the foundation of even national planning. Today, we don't even know our population. Why? Because we couldn't get national identity number right. If you have that database in place, 100% intact, you don't have any challenge of population. You don't have any challenge in your national planning. You don't have any challenge in your education. The database is there for you to utilize. And the issue of harmonization, by law, the only primary identification of a citizen is national identity number, not your passport, traveling passport.
All right.
It is by law.
Okay.
It is the only primary identification. The issue of COVID-19 you have mentioned, yes. By the time citizens started rushing to get their national identity, we issued many statements. We notify security institutions that the system has been relatively automated. What you are to do, download the form at home, complete the form, go and submit it. And if you submit it even online, we usually issue the list of people to be enrolled every day. Okay. In each center, you will go and see the name fixed there. People you usually see on television waiting for national identity number, they were not part of those invited to be enrolled. Okay. Those invited were inside our offices and the gate has been locked up. They were only by the roadside watching what was happening inside. Okay. So we cannot in any way be blamed about our attitude. What we need is attitudinal change. If I'm not invited for today to be enrolled, I should clear the screen until my name comes up.
When we started this, we had hoped that
you had opened so much the chapter. You opened it, so next time you should be extra careful.
All right, Minister. But we have just a few minutes left to go, and there are still so many issues now. Quickly, how far would the harmonization of data biometrics, which all kinds of bodies, road safety, banks, telecoms companies have gathered, they were all supposed to have been harmonized. How far with that?
Thank you. This is what we want to achieve now. Based on the federal government law, the only primary database is National Identity Management Database. Under NIMS, it is the only primary. All other databases, they are secondary database. So what they are supposed to be, they are to access our primary database at NIMSI. NIMSI was not able to deliver its mandate for years by having the central database in place. And the major challenge, to be fair with you, has to do with funding. Of recent has to do with funding. Previous years, I may not know. But for now, has to do with funding. But if you see what we have achieved within 4 months in NIMSI, that has not been achieved for many years before, because the enrollment is really, really encouraging. Over the weekend, a report was submitted to me of the enrollment we have achieved so far. If you see it, you will be happy, because from the time NIMS was transferred to me officially early October 2020 to date, almost 5 months, no single kobo has been given to us. Why? Because of recession and so many challenges of funding with federal government. But we continue to drive the process in spite of all the challenges in place. Why? We know NIMSI database will be the central. All other institutions are to make reference to it. So if the central database is empty, then no alternative for others but to open a chapter where citizens must go there and enroll. So now what we want to achieve is to ensure that the central database under NIMSI is complete, so that citizens may not be required to go somewhere and resubmit their biometric again. all other institutions are to come to NIMSI and access that database. Now the issue of harmonization, which is also very important, is part of the mandate of NIMSI. What we discover, many institutions that collect data did not comply with the template of NIMSI. In NIMSI, you have to submit all the 10 fingers. Some of them will say 204. If you submit 204, while the central database requires 10, then you must be invited to come and do it again. This is the challenge. Now, even another challenge we are being confronted with now today, that the process of verifying your biometric in SIM and biometric in NIMSI database. We discovered 2010, 2011, biometrics were not captured correctly. Some people only come and do like this, top of their finger. So if you compare with the database of NIMSI where they have professionalism, they must capture the biometric, you will discover it will not be validated. So the major challenge now, most of the biodata we have in telecoms are not in compliance with that of NIMSI. That is why many citizens have submitted their numbers, but validation has not been done. Why? Because even if you are the same person, here you submitted your biometric like this, and for SIM you only submitted top of your finger.
So how do you go around that? You'd have to start all over again, perhaps?
Yeah, what we want to do, we want to finish with those that will be validated. Okay. Then we give time for others to go and resubmit their biometric. They will be invited to go and submit. But we want to continue to make the process more easier.
Hopefully those who are in this category wouldn't face any sanctions or wouldn't be cut off.
It all depends, really. If they are innocent, there is no reason for any innocent person to be sanctioned. No justification.
Well,
but most importantly, at that point, what I want to say, all what we have been doing, as you said, during COVID-19. COVID-19 is an issue of health, while SIM registration and NIN number is an issue of security. Based on our mandate at the federal level, our top priority is security. During COVID-19, terrorism did not stop. Banditry did not stop. Kidnapping did not stop. Why government is encouraged to stop taking action on terminating and frustrating criminals during that period, since the criminals did not stop committing crime during COVID-19. So no responsible government will say police go home, soldier go home. Why? Because there is COVID-19. They have to do the work of security. Because why? Because criminals commit their crime during that period. It is because of this, as a government, we feel, since criminals are committing crime under COVID-19, government must continue to work in order to ensure that we frustrate the effort of criminals during that period. Secondly, if you read Constitution of Nigeria, Section 14, subsection 2, under Article B, the Constitution says the security and welfare of the citizens or of the people is the primary responsibility of the government. So our primary responsibility is security.
Would you say that this action, at least you've started seeing some tangible results in terms of these registrations and criminal activities, or insolvent crimes, for instance? Have you seen
to be fair with you, a lot has been achieved.
All right.
As you said, it's a security issue. It's not good to disclose it. Right. But to be fair with you, what we have achieved, if I can say 10%, in which criminals at least discover that telecommunication sector is no more a place where they leverage on and commit crime, the way it has reduced significantly is really, really amazing. Right. Criminals usually used to buy SIM. When they commit one crime or one communication with it, they will replace it. Today, there is no new card. Most of them exhausted their cards and they couldn't get a new one. And because of this, they are stranded. Okay.
Well, we're fast running out of time. So, Minister, there are just two issues I may have. Only about two issues I may have time to take on. And it has to do with some of the agencies which the ministry supervises. One of them, of course, is Galaxy Backbone. And the other, which I'll take first, is NIPOST. Now, you're a senior member of this government, and Nigerians worry when agencies of government get involved in controversial issues in carrying out their mandates. A big question is about NIPOST and the Federal Inland Revenue Service over the matter of stamp duty. And who is in charge?
I think this is a very important question. There was a misunderstanding, and conflict is inevitable in governance. But what is most important is we should be matured in handling conflict. That is why there is conflict resolution in government. If you see there is no conflict, it means nobody is doing his work. But as long as that work is going to be executed, there must be conflict. So conflict is not per se the problem, but the way conflict is managed is the problem. To be fair with you, I had a meeting with Federal Inland Revenue Service. The chairman, Alhaji Muhammad Mani, was in my office. We had a very cordial discussion about how to resolve the issue. We addressed the issue amicably. And also I established a committee of all the parastatals, along with even FRIS, with the support of the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, which is being chaired by the Executive Vice Chairman of NCC. I personally established the committee. They have started meeting, even beyond stamp duty, on how to work together to avoid any conflict that may unnecessarily arise in the future. In that meeting, the Postmaster General of the Federation is a member of the committee, DG NIDA is a member, MD Galaxy is a member, MD Niche Comsat is also a member, and the chairman, Federal Revenue Service, is a member. So you see, this effort brought about sanity between the two institutions. And also, if you look at the Finance Act 2020, which is to be implemented in 2021, it is clearly stated that the production of stamp is to be done by NIPOST, meaning that FRIS has not been stopped from using stamp, but they can purchase it from NIPOST. So now there is a clear line of demarcation that NIPOST should be the producer, while FRIS can patronize it and they can make use of it. So with this is a clear line that the mandate of NIPOST has been brought back to it without in any way frustrating the effort of FRIS in collecting tax for government. So both of them can work it now together, and that can be implemented because both of them are agencies of government. This is what has been achieved.
Now, the other one quickly has to do with Galaxy Backbone and repositioning it. And quite recently, some concerned Nigerians were worried that Galaxy Backbone, which was set up, has not, well, in the past achieved its mandate. So what are you doing in repositioning?
To be fair, the challenges of Galaxy are mainly two. Number one is about perception. There are many allegations, but they are not true. It's about perception. Why I say perception, many civil servants do not like to patronize Galaxy. If you patronize Galaxy as a federal government institution and you pay the money, it will go directly to the Treasury single account. So if somebody has any personal and mischievous interest, he will not be interested in Galaxy. Because if you pay Galaxy, government pays government. So there is not any intermediary where some people will be able to manipulate the amount to be paid. So it is because of this I know many ICT experts do not like Galaxy to be patronized because there is no any room for someone to do anything illegally and get any money. Two, obsolete infrastructure. Even before the coming of our administration, we discovered that based on history, the infrastructure of Galaxy was supposed to be replaced. Only end of last year that I presented a report before the Federal Executive Council on the need to replace some critical infrastructure of Galaxy, in which Mr. President has approved that. The money has not been released, but when the money is released for Galaxy, I believe they will discover the obsolete infrastructure and replace it. These are the two major challenges. I have been using Galaxy, and the quality is very okay for me. I have Galaxy in my office. I don't have any complaint. I attend virtual Federal Executive Council with Galaxy, and I can attend 10 meetings virtually, spending 5 to 6 hours every week without encountering a cut-off even for 2 or 3 minutes throughout. So why other people are complaining? Again, it's lack of maintenance. If you deploy the facility or the broadband of Galaxy, you have to maintain it. You cannot drive your day every day without servicing it, without replacing the oil. But people will just deploy ICT. They want ICT to be working every day without maintenance. There must be maintenance. And this is where many institutions fail. They don't have a team of experts to maintain. And they find it difficult to reach out to Galaxy and to guide them on maintenance. So I say these are the third issue, if I'm to add on it, the issue of maintenance. And this is to be done by federal public institutions after deployment of the facilities.
Minister, it's not been a dull moment at all at the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy.
Thank you.
And we do wish we could have gone on. There's still so many issues. So we would like to make a request that this conversation continues at some other point in time to explore other avenues of Nigeria's growth and the digital economy.
Mr. Cyril Stoba, I have been following you. I admire you. So the only gap between you and I is a phone call. Whenever you need my attention here, just let me know. I will be here to address our citizens and to be accountable.
Thank you very much, Minister, for coming on.
It is my pleasure, and you are welcome.
Thank
you very much.
Well, that's our program today. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with One on One. I am Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.